cloud, share screen.
Yeah. Okay, so for now, over to Srinivas.
Yes. Okay. Can you see my screen? My presentation there. Oh, Dimpy says she's not able to get into the meeting. I think I need to.
You will need to admit her, Srinivas. On the right side, on top of chat, you should see all the people on the lobby
Sorry.
waiting.
Yeah, sorry. No one is there. I admitted them. Okay, I'll keep it. Okay, I'll be checking that screen. You can hear me okay, right, Brijesh? You can see my
Yes.
presentation.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you everyone. Sorry for that initial glitch. So good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Thank you all for joining on a Sunday afternoon, morning. Thank you, Brijesh and the team for this opportunity. So welcome to the session on software quality frameworks and measurements. So most of you know me. You have seen my video with Brijesh or other things. So, I'm Srinivas Kantipudi. A little bit about me. I work for software right now, 20 years in the industry. I've done a lot of things, but at the core, I'm I'm passionate about learning new things. I'm a tester core, always try out new things, framework, automation. That's about me. So before I start, like every day, what we do is we always try to make our products better, right? That's day to day. That's what we do. We make our products better. So I'll start my presentation with two questions. I'll spend a minute there on each of the question. So first one, what does quality mean to you? Anything that comes to your mind, you can type it in the chat window. I'll be looking at it. When someone asks you, you are the manager, your head, what does quality mean to you? Or what will be your answer? How will you answer that? Sure. Anything is fine. Anything that comes to your mind, don't have to think about it. Valuable to someone, satisfied, error-free product. Yeah, customer satisfaction is a good thing. Delivering a product that the client user expected, which satisfies their needs. Very good definition. I think you have a quality statement or something in your company, Krishna. That looks like a good quality statement. Um, or a vision kind meet requirement, useful for a product to a preferred end user, uh, matches expectations, value satisfied. So all good things. So keep typing. I'll also have matches expectations, a relative term, which is true. That's what my presentation is about also. I'll also go to my next question. If someone asks you, how is your product quality? You're doing your testing, you're about to release, or you released a product, it's in the production. If someone asks, how is your product quality? What will your answer be? To the previous question, requirements from law, industry standards, and customer. Okay. Anything for the next one? How is your product quality? Anything is fine, Krishna. If someone asks you, your manager comes in, how is your product quality? If some yeah, if anyone outside, if you're having a discussion with your friend about your testing your product and they ask you, how is your product quality? Product, what does your product do? How is the quality? Should be user acceptable. Okay. Product is trying to meet the UAT test cases accepted by our customer. Okay. Which we write before product is released. Meets expectation of the customer and user. Product quality. Okay.
Meets the functionality.
Meets functionality. Yeah, meets the expectation. Uh, you can just type mute and type. That's better, I think. So, okay, yeah, I think many should help customers to solve business with your product quality. I think some of you are like answering to the first one also. Quality is good, is getting expected revenue, not having issues reported, is being used by people. Yeah. Good. So I think a lot of good in-depth thinking. So in-depth thinking of like what does quality mean? How is your product quality? So when I talk like somewhere like in the interviews, when I talk to my colleagues, if I ask the same question, there'll be different answers. Some says zero bugs is the product quality. Some says ease of use is the product quality. Customer satisfaction that came in. Uh, Seldom I hear about internal things like quality means both internal and external, right? I hear a lot from customer side, bugs side. So I'll go to my presentation and then we can get back to this question why I asked, we can get back. So first we will look at like the models. I don't know if any of you have looked at models, you use them in your current company. Zero bugs, maybe good plate. Yeah, yeah, keep typing. So I'll talk about initially, first I'll talk about the quality models, frameworks available in the market. What do we have? How do we measure? Can we measure quality? How can we measure? What are the models that are available in the market? First we'll start with this and then we'll talk about why we need metrics, right? So I don't know how many of you heard McCall's model, quality model. This was developed in year 1977. I'm sure most of you might not have born during that time. I was just born. So what McCall's model says is quality. It's based on 11 factors, and it divides into three different things. What it says is like during product operation, like when the customers during production, when the customers are using it. Quality means correctness, having functionally working properly. It means reliability. Is it like reliable, the product reliable, efficiency. Integrity is all about security, authentication, authorization, and other things, and usability. That's what quality is described as during the product operation. And then there is product revision. This is during the development, when you are developing your product, when you are making changes, getting ready, making enhancements for the next release, trying to add a new feature. What should it be? What are the quality terms? So it says the code, the product should be maintainable. Product code should be maintainable. It should be easy to maintain. You cannot like if you change a line, it should not be. You should not be disturbing everything, all the modules, all the components, introducing a lot of things. It should be flexible enough to change, and it should be testable. So this is like very, very, very important aspects. I don't know how many of you think of it and then log bugs when the product is not testable. So like I know when automation during when we don't have like IDs to automate, we log bugs. But when we see like I'm not getting the right message when it failed in the logs, I'm not able to find out the cause of the failure. Maybe the backend is eating all my errors and I'm just say getting some weird error in the front end. Do we look at all that and say like this is not testable enough? I cannot test it. That's about testability. So the good thing is when we talk about product quality, we're talking about external quality and internally how are things that all like again affects the whole quality, right? And then there is transition phase where like when you're trying to port it from one platform to another platform. So how easy is it to port and how much of my code can I reuse when I'm doing different things? Interoperability, how each pieces are connected, how easy is it to connect external pieces? So it combines everything. It's just not the product. It thinks about internal quality things. It thinks about transition phase, everything. So that's the beauty of this quality model. I like this model. Like when I look at different model, this puts it in a very nice way. I like this a model. So this is one of the model. And then we have like ISO IEC model 25010. That's the latest. They have different models. ISO they are the standardized. They do the standardizations, right? They work on worldwide standardizations. So in the field of information technology also, they have some tie-up and they create the square model. They call it square, systems and software quality requirements and evaluation. In the latest model, they divided this into two different things. I kept this product quality here and then is quality in use also. So again, it has like 8 parameters and each one like talks about what it is. Same thing again. It talks about external, internal. It has all the things combined. When you talk about when someone asks you about quality, it's just not about product. Think about the code, think about the requirements, which I'll talk later, think about everything. That's what they call it. Think about your process. That all contributes to the quality thing. So when I look at this thing, anytime I do my testing, do my automation, anything, I look at this and I get a lot of ideas from these things, like efficiency. How efficiently is my product using all the resources available? Does it really require that amount of RAM or like files, anything? How are the log rotations happening? Everything is related. So when you look at it and read about these things, you'll get a lot of ideas. That's that's how these are like valuable when you do your testing. Anything, adaptability, how easy is my product adaptable? If I am doing like, if I have an IDE, if I have something monitoring system, customer might have the similar technology, right? For some of their things, can I integrate, adapt with them seamlessly? Or do I need special leads and all? Will it help in migration, adoption when I do this? So you'll get a lot of questions and then you might have good ideas on your tests and all while doing this. So that's the square model. They have different other models also. You can read through them. And they have all the definitions there. If you go to the internet and just type ISO square, and they will have the details on each of these models. What are they? What does that mean? Each of the parameters there. Sorry. Um, so I talk. So FOBS is from HP. So it talks about the requirements, the quality from the requirements perspective. So when you're doing a new features, first you will look at the requirements, right? And then you write something like design doc or a feature spec or a story, whatever it is, you'll have a small document. So when you're doing writing that document, are you thinking about everything? That's what FOBS is about. So it says functionality is important, plus all these things you need to think about. So when I'm thinking of a requirement, for example, if you take reliability, so is there some kind of agreement for like my rate of failure or how much time my application should be up? You might have heard about 99.999 and all these availability things, right? Which means if it's 5 nines, which means we can be only down for 5 minutes in a year. That's our application availability time. So do we have something like this? Do we need to think about this during our requirement? So uh, how quickly can we recover? If it's 99.999, I should be able to recover in 2-3 minutes, because 5 minutes is a downtime for a year that I'm allowed to. So how is the recoverability when something bad happens? How fast, how easy, time to fit? All this, like when you look at it, think of it, you'll get the ideas. You'll get a lot of pointers, lot of ideas, anything here. So that's FOBs. And like recently, or like after they defined this FOBs, they added the plus, which is like thinking of the design constraints, implementation constraints, and all. The plus is all the constraints. That's what they said. I didn't cover this here, but they have a new thing for constraints. So they say FOBs plus. Uh, Squale, I don't know if you've heard about it. Squale talks everything in terms of software source code. So it's like assessing the quality of the software source code. Source code quality is also important. If not, we cannot maintain it, we cannot change it, we cannot reuse it, and it becomes all messy. And then you cannot say my product is quality product, but my source code is all messy. Squale defines everything in terms of source. So many of the static code analysis tools, if you have used it, SonarQube, it takes everything from Squale, the model, and it takes some of these factors and then implement them in the tool. SonarQube is completely based on Squale. So it scans the code, it looks at the code, and then says like, okay, is the code testable enough? If it's too complex, too many interdependencies, I can't write a unit test. Unit test should be very, very small. It should test the smallest piece of functionality, right? If it's all interconnected, it's hard to do my unit testing. So it goes into code, it sees, is it indented properly? So that's like, again, readability or maintainability, uh, everything it reads. And then it gives a report to you, like something like this. If you go into Google and say SonarQube reports, you get it. We use SonarQube. I don't want to show my reports and my bugs. So this is from Google. It looks at each of these factors and says security. Your rating is A. You have 0 new vulnerabilities. In terms of code, everything is in terms of code. It's a scale. And maintainability. You have like 6 minutes of depth. It calculates everything in terms of technical depth. It says like if you are adding a new line of code, you're introducing a technical depth. So I'll talk everything in terms of technical depth. That's what Squale says. So if you look at it, SonarQube and Square, you'll find lot of different documents, lot of material in the market. So there are several other models. I took an example from each different area. And then I found this in the internet, comparison of the models, all the quality models that we have. Like we looked at Macal, ISO 9126 is old, 2501 is the latest one. So this might be some old table. Macal is one of the first one, and then came ISO things, Forbes, we looked at Square. Okay, Square is also there. So this is a comparison of different quality models. So when you look at it, we can say, like I also highlighted, like whatever is like mostly used by all the models. I just highlighted them. So this gives an overview of like what all do we need to think of. Anything that we do in our day-to-day life. It's not about testing, it's not about coding. Anything that we do in the product development life cycle. What should I think of? So you get a lot of ideas from this, right? So if you like now, if you take an example from here, reliability. And if I say, look, like we talked about this, how reliable is your product? So you might be doing a lot of things, right? You might be doing your soak tests, you might be looking at all your performance and benchmarking and all that. So you have some ideas. So when you say like reliable, if you answer something like, oh, our products are reliable or something, Or instead, if you say like, oh, so our mean time, I know our mean time between failures. I know how our tier one customers bugs are the blockers. We have the results of our soak tests and benchmarking. So I exactly know how the reliability of a product. I can give you lots of data. So that that gives you like that's a clear answer, right? Instead of saying yeah, we are very reliable, our customers are happy. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does it mean? That's where the metrics comes in, like whether we call it measures or data or metrics. We collect a lot of them, but if we provide a structure to it and say like if someone asks, there are many reliability models also in the internet. If you go and check, there'll be a lot of models and prediction models, reliability models. There'll be many models. But in simple terms, if you say reliability for means how many times are the production down scenarios for customers, or what is our mean time between failure, or how many soak test results. This combination is my reliability index, whatever you call it, or that's how we measure reliability. That gives lot of weightage to your answer, right? It's good, but if you want more details, this is what it is. That's where metrics helps. These models, this helps you in like testing better, automating better, writing your code better, and all that. But then the next thing, metrics will help you with like more data. And then you have all the details. That's where metrics comes in. But I know everyone like if you talk about metrics anywhere, not in like anywhere, there are like many pros and cons. There are many people who are favorable, not so favorable. That's because they're very dangerous. If you understand those dangers of the metrics, it will be very useful. But you just have to understand when to use them, how to use them, what metrics to choose, and how to do that. So before I start, I'll give you all the warnings, jokes, quotes, and all. Then I'll start on this metrics part. So starting with the famous Dilbert one, I'll just give you a second to read. The first one is actually very, very true. That's what the truth about metrics. It's easy to beat any metrics. You give me one metric, I'll beat it. And if you say like, okay, code quality is important, and I might code quality means like there are bugs, there are security things, there are code smells. What should I focus on? Code smells. If you take any code, will have like thousands of code smells initially. So if I'm getting customer bugs and I'm ignoring them and I'm only looking at code quality things, code smells and all, that's like beating the purpose, right? So that's what the first one is about. Give me a metric uh, and I can beat it. So metrics are like data points. They are not like a truth. They don't elevate them to the level of truth and say like, oh, how come we missed it? Similarly, the second one talks about the importance of choosing the right things. If you say like customers, then everyone will focus on that. If I don't know if you have heard about the Wells Fargo thing, the famous Wells Fargo account fraud scandal. If you look at it, so they have this one wrong metric cost them like lot of money. $185 million. Like they said, like they want like new customers. They have some metrics around it, so everyone tried to cross sell, or they have a metric around cross sell. So how not to use metrics and Wells Fargo? If you type it, you'll find very good examples there. There are many examples. A lot of good examples on metrics. How not to use them. You should be very careful before you choose it. But at the same time, you can't say I don't want to measure. Why go into all this? One famous quote from Galileo: "Measure what is measurable, and make measurable what is not so." If you don't measure, you don't know what you're doing. That's what this means. If you don't know what you're doing, you might be picking the wrong things. I can give you an example here. Like, for example, always the teams always wants to work on the latest and greatest things, right? So there might be a lot of, if 10 members in the team says, oh, that tool is good, we need to adopt it. Maybe that's because that's the latest and the greatest tool and everyone wants to learn, do that. So is that really good for the product or good for other things? Do I need to pick it, or is there some other important thing that I need to take care of? If I have 10 things, what should I pick first? All these things you will know. You have to take out all the emotions and all, right? People have their favorites, teams have their own things there. So if you take out all the emotions and look at data, then you will know clearly what to pick first. That's where metrics or measures comes in. Metrics are not for like targeting, evaluating someone. It's for like picking the right things, doing the right thing, fixing the process. That's where metrics helps. Another thing from what Kelvin. So it says like when you express it in numbers, you know something about it. If not, it's like your answers will be not sometimes not very clear. Uh, this means, and then the last slide on the quotes. I don't know if you've heard about Peter Drucker. He's one of the initial management gurus. He's considered one of the management gurus. Have written many books. His quotes, if you look at his quotes, he has very good quotes. Uh, so it's like if you can't measure it, you cannot manage it. You don't know what to do with them. So that's his quote. If you heard about management by objectives, MBOs, we used to do MBOs 10 years back. So he has written about MBOs in one of his books. So that's how the MBOs came into effect. Now we are not doing in MBOs anymore, but like 10 years back, we used to write a lot of MBOs. And then uh, at the same time, I keep talking about it. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. So never make it as a target. A measure or a metric is just a value to look at it. That's all. It's easy to, so like the famous Dilbert cartoon, it's easy to meet any target. If you say like, if you get this target, you'll get it. I'll only focus on the target. If my bonus is based on some specific target, I'll focus on that target and leave the rest, even when the house is burning. So it's easy to. So I think one more last slide on my how and how not to use metrics. So they should always be used to gain more information. You should have some measure, whether you call them measure or metrics, you should have them, but have them to gain more information. They're just the indicators of like your current and your past, right? They're just an indicators. Never take them as truth. Metrics are not the truth. Okay, and the proper initial, the response should be, if you're getting any metrics, the response should be to investigate and not to act. You should not act on a metrics immediately. Um, and they always give you data without emotion, which is a good thing, right? And they provide legitimacy when you're arguing on something. When two people, if they're arguing on the same thing, and one person has metrics, that that's like a win thing. With metrics, you can win the arguments. Misuse, keep saying, use them to reward or punish someone, or like using vanity metrics. If you heard about them, vanity metrics are like they're like feel good kind of metrics. Number of bugs logged. If you have 1,000 bugs, oh wow, it's a feel good. It's a useless metric. Number of hours spent, attrition rate, number of likes. So the attrition rate is like again the previous thing. If I'm hiring all like average guys, I can improve my attrition rate. So have the right kind of metrics. That's what this is about. Never elevate them. I keep talking. I keep telling. Don't elevate them to the status of the truth and say, "Oh, this went bad." start investigation and see what can be fixed in the process. It's not to judge anyone. It's not to judge anyone. And there is a concept called surrogation. It says like the measure of a construct of interest evolved to replace the construct itself. So when someone said customer satisfaction, right? When I asked my first question there. So if says like, oh, okay, customer satisfaction is the measure of quality. So I will say, we will have customer satisfaction surveys every year, like NPS scores. So that's very popular. So if that's the only thing to measure and that becomes the actual that's treated as the actual customer satisfaction, then that's like that beats the whole purpose. There might be more things, many things. Uh, so you should not believe that, okay, this is the only thing. Score survey is customer satisfaction for me, nothing else. I don't, it's okay. Uh, if product quality is deteriorating. Okay, so enough of all the things, right? Usually when I talk about metrics data, I don't give all this. It's hard to give um, all the data there, but remember this, when I'm new to management, taking some of this data, I did a lot of stupid mistakes with metrics. Everyone does. It's important to understand that they are like lethal if you are like doing it in a wrong way. They just read the wells Fargo thing again and again. Um, so having said that, so how do we approach the metrics? What are some of the examples? They're just examples. Don't take them literally and say, I'll start using this metric. Some of the ways you can collect data to understand how things are. One of the approach I follow or I know is like goal question metric approach, GQM approach. That's for metrics. So it says first try to define the overall goal. What is your overall goal? It can be like customer satisfaction. It can be like reduce time to market. It can be like operational excellence. I want to improve my internal processes. First define the overall goal. Then start asking, when you have the goal, start asking operational level questions. What do I have now? How do I get data related to this? Start putting all the questions and then think of all the things like, okay, how can metrics, all the all the things that I mentioned, and then say like, okay, how do I get a metric? What metrics is right to use? This might not be the right thing, but just an example. There'll be very good examples if you look at GQM model again in the internet, they give so many good examples. Like for these sessions, if I have to take some metrics, my audience doesn't fall asleep in the next half an hour. That's my goal. So what questions did they even show up? Like if I have only one person and if he's all like listening, is that a true thing? Is that a true metric that I'm taking, or should I first look at MTC versus how many it actually attend, how many registered, have they been thoroughly caffeinated, are they paying attention so far? So this is a good example that I saw. There are like lots of examples of how you can derive your metric from the goal, asking questions, how to how attentive are they? How do you check all those things? So go through them. You'll and then take one any goal, whether it's like reducing time to market, like from the idea to the market. If you want to reduce, what can the metrics be? Or improving the internal quality, what can be the metric be? If you try out and then question itself, can this be gamed? How can this be gamed? If I am given this, how can this be gamed? Should I even talk about this to the team? Sometimes you don't have to talk. It's just for you to getting the data to understand things. All those things, and be clear. It's metrics are for like getting the information, not for like acting. Then it's like no one will try to game them. Okay, so some like 1 to It's like a couple of models. I'll talk about them that I have used before. I have derived from some of the quality models. If this is the quality model, if I want to say like it, I can't say what fits for you, but given some condition, this is what it is. Because for you, performance might be the most important thing. Security or cloud-based security might be important. So when you say quality, it's about the external quality and it's about the internal quality also, right? That's what any model says. That's what the reality is. So there are many times we say leading and lagging indicators. Lagging is like when it's released. These are important. This helps you give the pointers to the leading. But if I focus here, improve all the leading indicators, I'll automatically have like good numbers in the lagging indicators. These are important, but first we should start with the leading indicators. You cannot have lagging indicators and say, I'll only track this. If you cannot improve this, you cannot improve this. So that's one famous way of measuring and looking at things, leading and lagging indicators. Um, and then there is three P's to quality. It's not about metrics or anything. I'm just putting out some models and say like, if you want, you can measure them for your purpose. You don't have to show it to anyone to understand. This three P's to quality is very like a popular people process product. Quality is about people process product. Some you don't have to measure. Some you just have to keep doing things. Some you have to measure to improve process. I can give you an example like how you pick things. For me, I know like my technical depth is like increasing. Like every time I release a product, I'm not able to fix like 30, 40 bugs and they're going into backlog. That's my technical depth, right? So if I look at it and say, why is my technical depth increasing? Just ask the five whys, the famous five whys, and say like, why is it increasing? Then you'll get the answers, right? Like, oh, we are taking features. Features are like important. They're taking the priority over bugs. Why? Or like we are fixing them towards the end only, the bugs. Why? Because features are more important. Why? If you ask it, you will understand. Okay, so bugs are not important. That's why we are pushing them towards the end. And then at the towards the end, I'm not getting enough time. So I just push all the priority 3 and below to the backlog. That's how my technical depth is increasing. So should I have a metric around like MTTR, mean time to resolution? When I log the time that I log the bug to the time that it gets fixed. If I measure it, try to improve a bit, will my quality be increased? Will my product quality increase? I'll have less technical depth. So there are like, even though I say I'm postponing 3 bugs, but they are like medium bugs. So you know this saying, right? Death by 1,000 cuts. So 10 medium 3 bugs is equal to one severity 1 bug. So that's like if you're having more and more medium bugs, that doesn't mean you're okay with the quality. So if you reduce the technical depth, automatically increase your product quality. So how do I reduce? Should I have MTTR because it's not happening automatically? That's how you should approach and pick something. Root cause analysis. If I look at it, I know there are bugs coming from customers. How do I fix the overall thing? Is it enough if I write one automated test to it? Or if I look at root cause and fix the whole process instead of just writing that one test? What is more important? So that's the way to approach to pick the right ones. And time to market is it all depends. None of this might be applicable to you. Maybe there are some other metrics that is more applicable to you. You should look at it and see why am I doing it? Is it the right thing? Is it the important thing? And then do. The next one, same like PPP, we have PPT also. Some call it people process tool, some call it people process technology. So it says like quality is based on these three. These are just, again examples. You pick and say like I'll try out what is important for me. Should I have a model or should I just pick one or two and say like this is what I'm trying to improve? This is why. So the tools, if we have the right tools in place, code scans, you'll automatically, your code quality will be good. So I'll use Sonar Cube there. And then I'll focus from the Sonar Cube, I'll get code smells, I'll get security things, I'll get bugs and all. So I'll focus on code smells because that's most important. So you need to pick the right things, right tool, and then get the data, put it into the right thing to work upon that. Security important. So should I use these security tools, or do I have like good penetration testers that can do Veracode, OWSP? There are a lot of tools out there. Do I need penetration testing tools or static? Only the code scanning tools for security. You look at them. So tools can do some things better. I cannot. I cannot judge the code quality by looking at code. There are so many things. Um, so I think that I covered, but like samples, there are many other models out there. These are just samples on how you can look at metrics, how we should approach them to talk about them. Or you can look at soft quality models that's available and say like I will define my own model and my own metrics. That's also that's also one way of doing things. It's like what we do is unique. It's like, I'll define my model. You can define your model and say this is the model we follow, and that's about the metrics. And similar thing. I given this as an example. I did think through everything. So like you can pick one and say you can argue and say, is this really a good metric? Yeah, maybe it's good for me. It's not good for you. So if I say like initially internally, I should have a release scorecard to understand my release. What kind of metrics? So for release, what is important for me? Not the external quality, internal quality when I'm releasing. Are the code quality scans important? Features, defects, regression, anything else? How do I do? Should I measure? So I tried most of these models. Some work, some doesn't work. Some I keep it to myself. I don't talk to anyone. So just for my purpose to look at the data. I like looking at data. So it gives me a lot of ideas, a lot of pointers. So before like this, I think my last slide, there are like a little confusion also. What is metrics? What is KPIs? What are um, MBOs or OKRs? What is this? Everyone comes in and say like, oh, I want to track this data. I want to have this metrics. And then we have KPIs at some level. And then suddenly someone will come and say, OKRs, what are the differences? So just like to show you a high level difference, not going into details. I didn't put MBOs now. I don't think no one is using MBOs now. It was like defined very long back. So metrics are like, if you talk about metrics, it's a quantifiable measure. It's a crude value. That's all. That's for tracking and assessing uh, anything, assessing the status of a specified process. But KPIs are for measuring. KPIs comes in. So like you can have 100 metrics and then some of them might be KPIs. It's like it's driven by the business. KPIs are driven by the business. And as the name says, it should be key to the business. That's the key part there, right? And it should be tied to performance aspect, like the revenue, uh, like 5% improvement in revenue, something kind of performance. And it should have an indicator, some number there to indicate what we are tracking. That's KPI. And it's like we use metrics for KPIs, but not every metric does not become a metric. KPI metrics are not for acting tracking. KPIs are like they lead to actions. So, like, for example, bookings per day, number of websites, whatever the business things, sales by reason, or lead to opportunities. How many leads are we getting? Opportunities, how many are turning into opportunities? Those are all like KPIs derived. OKRs they are like much more at a higher level. They are like they're derived from MBOs actually. They're like straightforward. The OKRs are, I think, designed by Intel, and they took straight away from, they say, like, we took this from MBOs. But OKR says like everyone's work is important from lowest level to highest level. So everyone will have an OKR, and they're very, very transparent. OKRs are transparent to everyone, the whole company. KPIs sometimes are like just the manager to the person because it sometimes measures the performance and all. So they are not transparent. But OKRs, they're quarterly, they're reviewed with everyone. They're straight there. Everyone can look at them. KPIs sometimes are transparent, sometimes it's just between manager and the employees to focus on specific things. MBOs used to be yearly things, so they are also very specific. Yeah, did I miss anything on KRs? So it's like kind of setting things. For example, if you want to, if they're aspirational also KRs, it's not like most of the time we say like if we are meeting 90% of the time, they are like very good, kind of achieved OKRs. But KPIs are not that. We have to meet them. They are like, you need to meet the KPIs. So if your company wants to double from 500 million to 1 billion, that's when like OKRs help. It's like something drastic. The Google and all, they popularized this one, the OKRs part. So that's the difference. Sometimes we get confused. There's still a little confusion between. So don't worry. This is like at a high level. What is the measure? What is the metrics? Measure and metrics. We take a measure and we sometimes say metrics. Metrics is slightly different. It's okay. So, and then some of them becomes KPIs and OKRs. Um, so did I miss anything? I think that's all I have. Now I'm, I think, 15 minutes right on time. I can open for questions, anything at all, if you want to understand any more details, uh, any other details. Vijesh,
Well, thank you, Srinivas. Very, very informative webinar. I think my expectations have been exceeded. Uh,
oh,
I, you know,
it's hard.
I was
So,
no, I was uh, stuck for a long time with the ISO 25010, and you know, in fact, last week we had a discussion with the customer on quality attributes and things like that, and I mean basically. For our test planning, we wanted to know what are the quality attributes that are important for them, because that is an important question that we obviously ask customers as consultants. What is it that you are looking for? Because my definition of quality may be different from yours. So I want to know your perspective so that we are able to incorporate that in our test design. And that was the idea. And with that thought, we went in and we asked the customer, and he gave straight reference to ISO 25010.
oh, cool.
Okay, and then we said, okay, we have variations in 25010. Which one are you referring to? So that was a little fun discussion, and like you described, I mean, there are variations. You People have to be aware of what needs to be applied in what context, and that is the most important thing. So thank you so much, Srinivas, for sharing that. There's one question that I noticed, and this is from Ranjan. Uh, Ranjan, I'll ask the question on your behalf, and then if after that, if you have a follow up, I will unmute you so that you can go ahead and ask that question yourself. For now, Ranjan asks, how do how to get work done by senior members in the team who will ignore your management? Won't metrics help here to question their commitment to complete work? Sorry, I found this a little funny because you are trying to highlight something, but Srinivas, I will let you answer that.
Right. That's when, like, when you're talking to, when you're having one-on-ones and all, right? Usually you say, like, oh, I think you should improve on this. You're doing first, you'll start with all the good things as usual, saying, yeah, this is all good, happening well. I think this is where you should focus on. Some people get it, some don't get it straightforward, because that's not because they don't understand it, just the personality type that gets in. Some people think that they're doing everything right, but not getting the recognition. Uh, Even if you talk for weeks, they won't get it. But that time, this kind of metrics will help. Look, this is what the data is, but don't say like these are just the pointers. So I think this is how we are looking at things. Do you agree? Should we like try out different things? How do we measure anything? It's not like just to understand how things are happening. So don't say this is the truth, but at that time the data will help. Data definitely will help, but don't take data straightforward and put it on the face and say like, okay, see, you log this many things, or like this is how I do things. So just say like these are the different things. If I look at it when I say we are improving on the process, we are improving on the product. So this is what I look at when I talk to you. So anything else we should look at, or maybe I'm missing something that you're doing good. I can include that in my things. What is that I should look at? How should I change this? Some kind of discussion. Sometimes it's just the personality. It's not the people, maybe sometimes it's just the personality type. There are different personalities. Some people, even though they know 10%, they think 100%. It's just the personality, that's all. Some people know only 100%, but they always think they're 10%. That's also there.
Yeah, in fact, you know, uh, we have had some discussion in the test chat group regarding these personality traits and what are the different biases and conditions that people go through, and it's got a lot to do with neuroscience, and that's a totally different subject, a
Yeah.
very wide subject. But what I have a follow-up question on that from Ranjan for you, Srinivas. So, is it a good practice to compare individual productivity on the basis of metrics, or would you keep a different focus with your metrics?
Yeah, I never mixed them. If you want to do it like a performance-based model, go to KPIs and do it. That's a business thing. But don't mix metrics data and bring it into your performance thing and say like, even if you're saying it should be clear to them from the start, okay, this is what I'm looking at. This is how we look at. When I say like, as a senior member, you should try to improve. You should look at improving processes, existing processes. That's what I expect from a senior, from a principal. How do we know if we improve? So if I am like, whatever, pick something what's important, and then that's how you can discuss. When a new member joins, I don't think they can work on improving the process. But as we go into senior, what are some of the areas I can improve? I can reuse. These are the things. So to measure that, I'll have some data that I'll share it, and then we talk. That's a discussion item. We talk. Okay, this is what I think is happening. That's how I do it. But if I want to measure, to do it like one by one basis as a KPI, or like, and not like a metric.
So, one more question, follow-up question on that. So, when we talk about these metrics, especially in context with different projects, how do you see these particular standard models that you spoke about fitting them in different contexts? I mean, should we choose? Should can we do a sort of a cherry picking and saying, okay, these are the ones that I need, or should we go with the whole model as suggested? I mean, what is your recommended approach?
Um, so yeah, that's a good question. So when you look at a model, so there are different models. There are different models for like code or requirements or software as a whole. You might say like these are all maybe our things. What we are doing is completely different. So that's what I said. Like when I asked the first question before, like what is software quality? So you were answering from your product perspective. You will have like 10 things, 20 things that come in. So you can say at a high level, I understand what are the factors. I will define my own factors, and this becomes my model. You take the clues from there. That's what we did in our company also. We have a model, but we didn't follow what's there in. We did a big exercise on like how what each one thinks, what is important for us, what should be the model for us, and that becomes like a poster where while people are writing their test cases, looking at functional spec, they look at this poster and say, like, "Am I thinking of this factor, parameter when I'm doing things?" So it entirely depends. So you might not care about security at all. I don't know if it's like a completely internal product used by admins. Maybe I don't need. I'll say like security is needed, but not like the highest priority. Performance is the highest priority. So you design your model that way. I like doing my own ways instead of just taking what's available in the market because it's not like everyone's everyone is unique the way they do things.
Yeah, in fact, just to go ahead with the example, I mean, I was talking about the discussion that I had with the customer last week, and it was quite interesting for me to see that although they gave ISO 25010 as the basis for choosing certain parameters, they had very specific quality goals aligned to some of those quality attributes. So those quality goals had absolutely measurable parameters which would go in as your test scenario probably. Okay,
Yeah,
and that formed the basis of acceptance criteria. So from a metrics perspective, that was a good example of how you can make the metrics traceable. Okay, connect the dots with your acceptance criteria, with your test cases, and so on and so forth. So that was a great example. And you know what, although they had said that they had picked up 25010 as a standard model, uh, when the architecture was being described and we were having discussion about planning the tests, so as the architecture was getting described, I had a couple of questions regarding authentication and stuff like that, and this is, oh, so I think we have not taken a look at it from a security perspective.
right.
And
Yeah,
then they went back to the ISO model, looked at what factors of security that they can pick from there. Then they defined quality goals based on that. And then they came back to us saying, okay, this is what we are adding on. So from a test perspective, just adding to what Srinivas said, it is always a good idea for you to go ahead and advise them on the basis of metrics that are being picked up. And this is exactly what we are talking about. And non-repudiation and uh, authenticity are the couple of parameters
right.
that they had missed, okay, in what they thought of, and they added that later. So this was a bonus. Well, there is a question from Anand, and this is a good one, I feel. So Anand says, should we first make sure that we can collect the matrix accurately before choosing a quality metric, especially metrics that depend on people filling up the values, say effort taken, etc.
Um, okay. Yeah, days effort. If it's like a manual thing, it can be gamed. That's what I keep saying. Some things can be gamed easily. So that's right, whatever Anand is saying. Should we first make sure that we can collect the metrics accurately? Yes, we should question. That's what I said. GQM model question. Can this be gamed? Will people leave everything and only work on it? Only sit 12 hours in office and don't do anything? Uh, it should all be combined with a metric should be combined with something else. Like there was an example like in a call center, they said number of calls made as a metric. So everyone is exceeding that metrics by like a huge margin. And when someone went and watched it, they are like just banging on the customer, not even answering to their question. Okay, I'm done. Next call, next call, next call. So it should be followed up with a satisfaction thing also. Our customer satisfied, number of calls made plus our customers. Sometimes the metric should be combined with two more things. Only then it will make a meaningful way. If not, there are very good examples there. Like an example from the history thing, when the during the British times, there are so many snakes in India, so they had a bounty. Everyone that gets a dead snake will get a reward. So people started breeding snakes, giving birth and killing them and then bringing them. So it's like it's easy to beat them. So that's what I mean.
Yeah,
Anything.
that's a great example. Another one, and this is again from my side. So again, talking about specific metrics for specific context, and taking deviations, a little deviations from these models. If I were to give an example, the metrics that are chosen, I mean, so let's say I choose this ISO 25010 square model as my basis, and then I'm looking at two different sectors. I'm looking at a hospital where we have some healthcare product that we are working on, say for example a heart rate monitor. Okay, and on the other side we also have somebody like a European Space Agency which is looking at building a space shuttle module, and we both the organizations they choose this as the model. Now again, as far as customization goes, what are the allowable limits of customization within this model? I mean, can we customize it indefinitely, or there is some binding parameter?
Um, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe like I think you gave that example before, right? For like ISRO or some rocket launching thing, their metrics might be very, very, very specific. You
Yes.
you cannot use a model. They should be like so. Maybe they can have entirely new thing. They have zero tolerance on anything. So uh, nothing, none of the models might fit, or like only 10% fits it. So they will get into their thing. So I think yes, I think everyone should look at it. Not there is no single answer. What we do now is too much variance on how we do things. Like for mobile, every MB of data is important. I can say I can have 1 GB for my app server, put it in a mobile, and you should work with I don't know 2 MB uh, spare of the RAM and everything. So it all changes. The game changes. The iPad, the mobiles, all these devices change the whole thing also.
Yes. I mean, since you spoke about mobile, I mean, if we do a comparison simply on the performance factors that we consider, and we are talking about Apple just came up with their M1 chip for their MacBook Pro, and which is supposed to be dubbed as the fastest processor on planet, beating the Intel processors by a long way. But in the recent comparison, that there are a lot of review videos that people have tried to compare video rendering with a 2019 or 2020 model of a MacBook Pro, which is an Intel model, and one with the M1 chip. And what they noticed was that there were a lot of other factors that go into
Right.
rendering a video. So straight away, doing a chip comparison might not be the right thing before you declare one as the winner. Okay, so I thought of that as a good example, because when you're talking about metrics, you're talking about, here at least they are talking about the same industry, same thing, same product. Okay, they're talking about two MacBook Pros. One is a 2020 edition, one is a 2021 version, and there's still there is some similarity. But when you go across industries, I mean,
Right.
consider the fintech sector, or the healthcare, or the space that we just spoke about. The metrics will vary, and that is why I, in my personal opinion, feel that there should be some room of customization with regards to the metrics.
Yeah.
But there has to be some limiting parameter which says, okay, you can't customize it beyond this limit, otherwise, this is of no value. You have your own metrics then, in that case. I mean, for example, MTTR becomes a very critical factor when you spoke about the rockets and things like that. the mean time taken between repairs or between
Correct.
the errors that are getting reproduced. So that becomes a very important factor, but that might not be essentially a key factor if you're looking at a mobile app. It
Right.
wouldn't matter that much. Okay, so I think you make a very good point, Srinivas. Well, if there are any further questions, we guys can take up in the test chat group. We can. I think Srinivas is more than happy to answer questions. I am always delighted when
Definitely.
he gives those detailed answers. I mean, hats off to your patience, Srinivas, for putting in so much of detail to every answer that you give. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating in this webinar and for the wonderful questions. This session is being recorded and will be available on the Test Chat YouTube channel. So please subscribe to the channel, and as soon as the video is available there, you will get notified. Um, Thank you once again, Srinivas.
Right.
Wonderful session. Lot of
Same.
learnings. I obviously get the privilege of viewing the recording one more time before it goes to YouTube. So, so I will obviously make some more notes, especially in context with the current activities that I'm involved in. Very helpful. Thank you, and
Thank you,
we look
Brijesh.
forward to seeing you all in the next webinar. Srinivas, we need more from you. So,
Thanks for the opportunity, Brijesh. Definitely.
yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.